Welcome back to Cricket Aviation. My name is Jim Payne, and this is the third and final part of the canopy installation. In this video, what I'm going to do is go through actually bonding the canopy to the frame. We'll go ahead and sand down and get the final gap finished after it's glued in place. And I'm also going to go through kind of showing you exactly what I did for an exterior latch that allows me to keep the canopy closed from the outside. So now one of the things that I did is that fitting the canopy between this front canopy cowling and the rear canopy cowling and the sides just enough so that the canopy fits on the frame, and then gluing it in place to me was one of the things I would not change. So one of the reasons that I did that is that you don't have to worry about the gap being perfect on the canopy. You just have to make sure that it fits, and once you get it glued in place, it's attached to the hinges. I could actually flip the canopy open and just sand the gap perfectly around it with the canopy installed on the frame and the frame installed on the airplane, and just keep opening and closing it and checking the gap and marking along the outside to make sure that I got, a perfect gap all the way around. And that seemed to work perfect. I had originally considered, well, maybe I can glue the frame to the canopy with all of it off the airplane and actually just set the frame in the canopy and get it in the right spot and glue it. That would have been a horrible idea. So the one thing I would highly recommend if you're going to go ahead and install your own canopy is do exactly like I did here, as far as making the frame, get the hinges done, get it attached to the airplane, glue the canopy in place as big as it will fit between everything, glue it in, and then go ahead and worry about creating that gap. So again, that worked perfectly, and I would do that again. So in this video, you're also going to see the process I used to glue the canopy to the frame and actually do the installation of the canopy. So I did a time-lapse video in here where you'll see me mixing up the glue and going applying the glue to the frame and actually setting and gluing the canopy down and strapping it down. So that is all covered in the video. But again, thank you for watching, and please, if you like the video, please give it a like, and please subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber. And we'll finish the canopy installation right now. I'm basically at a point now where I can start prepping the canopy to be glued on. One of the things I did figure out is I was trying to figure out, how do I strap the canopy down, because the canopy fits on here really well, but I want it to be pushed tight against the canopy tubes here, especially down here in the corners, to make sure where this has a little bit of a curve to it. I need to push the corners in. There's a couple spots like maybe here and here where it needs to be pushed in. There's another spot like here and here, let's say, just to make sure I get a tight seal while the adhesive is drying. So one of the things I did notice is the cutouts here in the fuselage for the wing attach control rod here actually fits with the hooks that I have here with straps, and this seems to align quite well with wrapping around the fuselage here. But it also, if I move it forward here, it also fits this contour also. So it looks like I'll be able to just strap this down, and then I just want to be able to put like some blocks underneath here to just put between the rear canopy and the main canopy to push them flush in a few different spots around both the front and the rear as it's drying, so I can just leave it for 24 hours and not have to worry too much about it moving or not being pushed down tight against the tube, because I do want to get as flush of fit between the canopy and the forward and rear canopy cowlings here. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm just trying to do some test fitting to figure out, okay, can I put the canopy on here, fit the strap around? Can I get something wedged in there and actually do a complete dry run to make sure that I have enough time, because I only have a half an hour of working time max with the PRC that I bought, and I do want to make sure that I can get this glued and exactly where it needs to go, so I can just have that all done within 30 minutes. But so far this is looking great, and I think I said before, I did cut off these bolts here to make pins out of these. I was able to pull the pins out. I was able to lift this up just enough to get my hand across there and unclip those latches without producing too much pressure on the other side on those latches. But So I'll only have to do that once it's together and glued. So that looks like it's going to be good. So I'm going to keep going here, just trying to get this canopy glued on, because I just want to get this done so that the canopy is finished, because this has been a kind of a stressful thing to do, and it's a big accomplishment once you have a canopy on the airplane. Seems a little bit more complete at that point. So I've done all the final fitting now on this canopy, and again, I still have to trim it to have a 3mm gap all the way around. I've only trimmed it so that it just fits in between the forward and rear canopy cowlings here. And you can see I've got blocks all over the floor here, and I've got bungee cords here. I did a test where I wrapped the bungee cord around the back here and a bungee cord around the front, you know, using the aileron connection holes, or the flap around connection hole down there. That worked quite well, and then what I did is I placed these foam blocks, you know, like here, to push the canopy. These actually fit in between the rivets that are sticking out a little bit. But I used this to just push the canopy up against in different spots, and then had the bungee cords wrapped around so that it would push the canopy against the aluminum frame while the PRC dries. And because this is curved down here and the canopy is shaped a little bit more straight, the corners have a tendency to want to push out. So again, putting these blocks in here worked really well. I did a test, it was flush all the way around, and I think I'm ready now to glue the canopy on. Now I do have to go through here and scuff up the inside of the acrylic where it's going to be bonded to the tubing, and I'm going to scuff the tubing just a little bit so that the glue adheres as good as possible. But now I'm trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to apply the PRC on this tubing all the way around in a somewhat even manner, so that I can glue the canopy on. I'm going to have two people, me and another person, that actually pick the canopy up. We'll spread it out a little bit on the bottom, and we'll set it down here on the top and get it set down here, and then we'll kind of lay the sides down, and then I'll go ahead and use the bungee cords to hold it in place. But I got to figure out how to get this glue on here and not make a big mess, and try and get it on as even as possible. And so here's what I've come up with. What I think I'm going to do is I went to Walmart and got some plastic bags for spreading cake frosting, and I got some of these tips. They came in a multi-set that had different shapes, but this actually has kind of a V shape on it. This seems to work really well. This is a scrap piece of tubing that I had, but the triangle shape centers itself very nicely when you run it down the tubing, that as long as you stay, you know, perpendicular to the surface that you're trying to apply the glue to, where the canopy is going to sit, I think I can use this to apply the glue quite well. So I had to come up with this. I think I can fill this bag up with enough PRC. I can squeeze it out the end, and I can just put a small cake frosting bead all the way around the tubing on the airplane, and then hopefully get the canopy installed and have it look somewhat decent. So I've got a caulk gun here. This is just leftover sealant. This stuff's cheap at Home Depot. What I'm going to attempt to do is fill this bag up partially with this caulking and see if I can apply it to this tube and just see how it looks. Because again, I don't know exactly how this is going to come out of this tip. I just know the shape of the tip does a good job of staying right in the middle of the tubing as you run this along the tubing. So hopefully this is going to work. This is what I'm going to attempt to do. Again, I'm going to do a little bit of a practice run before I actually get PRC mixed up, because the stuff is expensive and it's very messy. So yeah. But yeah, that's what I'm going to try and work on. Let me do this little test on that tubing. I'll show you what it looks like when I apply it to the tubing, so you can see if this is, you know, going to make sense for you know, getting a nice bead on here to be able to apply the canopy on. I want it to kind of run off either side of the tube and create a fairly wide, you know, hopefully filleted, somewhat of a filleted edge on the inside and out. I don't really want to go back after the fact and put another bead inside the canopy. I'm hoping to just do this in one shot and have it sealed. Now on the outside here, I'm likely going to mask off and then sand the outside of this canopy, so that I can do a paint line that will cover up not only the tubing but the PRC, because I don't want that to be visible from the outside. It's going to look ugly no matter what. I don't really care what it looks like on the inside, but on the outside I want it to look decent. So again, I don't want to get this stuff all over the place, and I don't want it to have it come really farther out than the tubing itself. But anyway, let me do my test here. We'll see what it looks like. Alright, let's see if we can get some of this inside of here. that over there. Now I'm not applying this in the right spot. I'm just trying to apply it as parallel as I can here. So let's see what this does. Okay, I like this a lot. I don't know if you can see it in there. It actually makes kind of a triangle on there, raised right in the middle, but that looks great. I think the question is, hold on, let me see if I can find something I can. I wish I had some of that clear stuff left. All right, now this isn't the same as the canopy material that we're doing this to. This is the rear canopy material, but I did want to see how this spreads out when I apply this on here. Again, to see if I have too much, not enough, because this is going to get pushed all the way down to the tubing, like so. Oops, now I'm getting it on myself, as I probably will get PRC on me. But this does a nice bead inside and outside, and does about the same width. So it does about the same width of the tubing when it's squished all the way down to the tubing itself. As you can see, the tubing is showing up in the middle there. I think this is going to work perfect. I don't think I could do this any better. I think this is definitely the way to go. It puts just the right amount of PRC on there. I don't know if you can see the actual, it does bead up around the two different sides. Wipe the end off there fairly nicely. I would say it would be nice if I could get a spatula in here and actually just round it off and radius it, but I won't be able to get to the inside of the canopy. So looking at this is good enough. I don't think I could do any better. This is perfect. I'm actually quite happy with how this is going to work. I have a lot of caulking left, but that caulk gun was, that caulk was pretty old anyway. So this is going to be perfect. I'm going to go ahead and prep the canopy now. And now that I know I can fill this with PRC and get at least a consistent bead along the canopy tubing, this is going to work out perfect. So let me get the canopy actually ready, and we'll go ahead and I'll hopefully videotape putting the actual PRC on the canopy frame itself and installing the canopy. Yeah, I think this is going to be perfect. I started off here by putting green tape all the way around the perimeter of the canopy here, and I used basically it's a 1-inch roll of green tape here, and I cut it down so that it was about 5/8 of an inch wide, and then I did that around the whole outside of the canopy to kind of make an edge that I could put the blue tape down and align the blue tape with to create a 5/8 inch lip that I needed to sand all the way around. So after the green tape, I put the blue tape right up against it. I then ripped the green tape off, and then I used 120 grit sandpaper to just scuff up all the way around the edge of this canopy, and just made sure that there was no shiny spots left. I then went back and just wiped it off with a wet paper towel just to try and clean some of the dust off. But I'm going to clean this a little bit more. I don't want to use anything that's going to melt the plastic, so I'm not going to wipe it down with acetone or anything like that. I just want to get it good and clean, and then I'll go ahead and take the blue tape off, because then it will be ready to glue the canopy part in. I don't want to leave the blue tape on in case when I glue the canopy that it rolls over on top of any of the blue tape. I don't have the ability to take the blue tape off until the canopy is completely dry, or at least the glue is completely dry, so I don't want any of that PRC to stick to the blue tape, so I need to remove it beforehand. Now, the canopy frame itself, I'm going to also sand that, but since I'm not going to glue this until tomorrow, I'm going to wait until right before I'm ready to glue the canopy. I'll run around the outside of the aluminum tubing and go ahead and probably knock that down also with some 120 grit sandpaper. And then I'll go ahead and get some glue on it, and we'll see if we can get this bonded tomorrow. I think I'm going to wait at least probably 48 hours before I go ahead and take the canopy off after the glue dries, just to make sure that it sets really well. But yeah, this is looking good so far. So I've done a few more things as far as attempting to fit this canopy on here before I glue it. And I thought I was going to be able to have two people, one person on each side, kind of spread the bottom of the canopy, get it positioned in the middle, set it on top, and then let the sides fall down, and then go ahead and strap it down while the glue dries. But I attempted to do this with another person, and it became very, very difficult for the two of us to try and align the center in the back here, the center in the front, and drop it down. It was too hard to coordinate it between the two of us. So I actually think I'm going to do this myself. But a couple things that I did. So I put a mark on the center of the canopy here. And then I originally had a tape mark here with a Sharpie mark so that I could line these two marks up here, and I could align two marks up here in the back. But the problem I had is when I tried to lower it down, I couldn't see the mark until I was already had the canopy in position, because, you know, of course it was drawn down the back of the rear canopy there. And I had the same issue here on the front. As I started lowering it down, it was hiding my view from seeing it. So what I did is I took two pieces of aluminum and I bent them up on the ends, and then have them actually go down past the lip on the forward canopy and the rear canopy to kind of hook on there. And then I drew a line up the middle of it and up the canopy, so that as I'm lowering it down, once I get to here, I can start seeing the mark before I ever hit the glue with the actual canopy. And I can do that on the front and the back. And my plan is to actually pick it up, align the back, set it down on the back, and then, you know, look up here, align these up, set it down the front, and then the sides just lay down. And then of course we'll clamp it down so that the glue is squeezed out all the way around the tube. So yeah, I think I'm at a point now where I'm going to go ahead and move forward with gluing it. You can see down here where I sanded the canopy, where it's not clear any longer along the edge there. That's where the glue is going to be. That's all the way around. So I'm going to pull this off right now. I'm just going to scuff up the tubing just a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the glue on the tubing and set the canopy on, and then get these straps that I have down there with all these little foam blocks to hold it in. So that's what I'm gonna try and do now. I'm gonna see if I can get this all on video. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the video in just a minute of me after I go ahead and sand down the edge of the frame. Well, the canopy's glued on. Obviously it's not dry. It's only been about 40 minutes since I started mixing it. The fit's as good as it was prior to installing the glue. I'm not totally happy with the glue. It looks really bad. I mean, when you see it through the canopy and it's not smooth and even, it drives me crazy. But the fact is that we're going to have to sand the outside of the canopy here and cover this with a paint line. So you'll only see the glue around the edge of the tubing on the inside of the canopy, which is not really going to be noticeable. Now, once this dries, I could take this canopy off and I could flip it upside down, and I could run along here with tape and again another bead of PRC, you know, on a popsicle stick to clean it up. But again, it's not necessary. It's glued everywhere. You know, you can see the tube shining through right there in the middle, and of course there is a bead showing up on either side, which is good. I've got that almost all the way around, but it's nice and flush now. It feels really good. So the fit's good. I'm not going to worry about how it looks, because this isn't going to look good no matter how you do it. I could have done a little bit better job with applying the glue with the with a cake decorating tool, but it kept sliding off. I actually had more of an issue trying to keep it on there when I was applying this glue than I did the test piece. But I did find out that I needed more of an angle. It was better to do it more of a 60-degree angle than a 40-degree angle, and actually have that V tool as much as possible ride the center of the tube. So if I were going to do it again, I would hold that that cake decorating tool a little bit more upright and not quite so much down at an angle, because I did get plenty of glue on there from what I can tell. I didn't need to get any more glue on there. So again, holding it more upright, allowing the V to go across the edge of the tube and holding it a little bit more like this rather than like this would have been better, because I did have it slide off in a few spots. But I'm not going to worry about it. We're going to leave this. We're going to let this dry, and then what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'll pull these pins out. I'll get my hand underneath here on the latch the other side, and we should be able to pull the whole canopy off with the frame attached. Well, there it is. There's the canopy installed. I was able to pull the pins out of here, reach in and unlatch the latches that were holding the canopy down, so I can open and close it now. The fit looks great. I'm actually quite happy with it. So it's actually the next morning. I finished this last night about 6:30, and then about, I don't know, 7 o'clock this morning I came down here. I did look on the internet, and it said that this stuff basically cures in about 8 hours, but it literally doesn't get the full cure for like 10 days or something ridiculous. So I wasn't really sure how hard this stuff would be, but it seems completely cured. I've got, over here, I've got the stuff I got to throw away, but this was what was left in this tubing, and it's completely hardened rubber at this point. So it looks good. I did sit in here with the canopy on. Now, this is the first time I've sat in the airplane with the canopy on and was able to close it at all. I never even tried to sit in it with the brown paper on it. It is somewhat claustrophobic in here, obviously. I mean, it's a small airplane, but, both my shoulders touch the canopy on either side. My head clears the top of the canopy, and I even had my noise-canceling headphones on, and they cleared just slightly. But if I tilt my head to either side, I will touch the canopy with my head. And if I tip my head backwards, the top of my head will start to touch the canopy back here. So there's not a lot of room in here at all. And again, I'm 5'9", just for reference. But yeah, it's certainly a different feeling when you get in here with the canopy closed. The optics of this canopy look great. I mean, it's not perfect, but you've got this huge curve up here. It's going to be not great anyway. The other thing I did look at is tried to figure out how to secure the canopy when it's open so that it doesn't fall all the way open, because this will swing all the way until it hits the ground, or if there was a wing on here, it would hit the wing. And I didn't see anywhere in the plans where it actually shows you how to tether the canopy when it's open. Now I tethered it back here with a piece of string to my lathe, which maybe not be a great idea, but it does allow me to open it at least and get into the airplane. And what I found out on the internet looking at other Cri Cris and other builders, and what they did is they seem to attach a tether point right here somewhere, and from here they attached it to this lower aft corner support. And what that seems to do is the distance between here and here with the canopy open 90 degrees seems to be about the distance from here down to the corner here when the canopy's closed. What's good about that is that when it's open, obviously it's straight and taut from here, and then you can get in and out of the airplane without really hitting it. But also when the canopy's closed, the string or wire or whatever you use is pretty much taut between here and here, so there's not a loose piece of cable that's going to be hitting you in the shoulder or touching you in the head or anything. So I think I'm going to work on that in a little while to make sure that I can at least open and close this canopy without worrying about it, you know, falling down or something. But yeah, anyway, it looks good so far. So the only other thing I'm trying to figure out with this canopy is I don't have any way right now when it's closed. When it's closed like this, there's latches inside, but I'm not inside, so I can't latch it. So there's absolutely no way right now that I can keep this canopy closed when I'm transporting it, when it's sitting on the airfield and I'm not in it. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is make some kind of a latch that will, you know, maybe even with a key. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do, but some kind of latch from the outside here and some kind of hook on the inside here where I can either lock or at least secure the canopy down from the outside when I'm not in it. And no, I did end up with there was one error when I did the fuselage. When I cut out these panels, of course, I cut them out with the CNC machine. All the holes were pre-drilled. Everything came out perfect, but I ended up with one hole. And I don't know if you can see it right there. There's that hole. It's between the 0 and the 9 written on the side of the airplane. There's a little drill hole there. So that hole ended up in the CAD drawing somehow, and I missed it. It ended up in the CNC drawing, and I missed it. And then I didn't notice it until after the fuselage sides were put together and the forward fuselage was assembled that I noticed that there was that hole there. Now, there's no hole anywhere else on the airplane. I've never accidentally drilled a hole by mistake anywhere on the airplane, but the CNC machine drilled that hole right there. Now, believe it or not, that hole is in the exact spot that lines up with, on the inside here, with frame 5 here. And what I think I'm going to do is actually drill out this hole, which is slightly lower than the hole on the outside, or drill out this rivet. And I'm going to, again, make some kind of locking mechanism that comes through here with some kind of latch that comes up and catches something that's on the canopy rail here, or canopy tubing, to pull it down and secure it. But it looks like I'm actually going to be able to use that hole as my locking hole from the outside. Again, it was a total mistake, but I think I can actually work with that and actually figure out how to put a lock on the outside of the airplane for the canopy. So sometimes things in the end work out, even though you make mistakes. But anyway, this seems to work. It seems to fit really well. I'm actually quite happy with how this turned out. I don't like the ugly glue line there. It looks terrible, but like I said, we're going to paint on the outside to cover it. I'm going to try and go back inside now that I can take the canopy completely off. And I've got a bunch of Pro Seal left, so I'm just going to use some Pro Seal and just run around the outside of this all the way around with taped off, and then with a maybe a popsicle stick or something to get a nice radius in there and make it all even and pull the tape off. It'll look good from the inside then too. It doesn't look bad right now from the inside, but it is brown, so it kind of shows quite a bit. And I am concerned about making sure that I have enough sealant around here that this canopy doesn't come loose from this tubing at all. And I think just going around with another radius of glue is a good safety adjustment to do. So anyway, looks good so far. I've got to head off to jury duty now, yay, and I'm going to come back and hopefully start working on this later this week. So it became a necessity for me to figure out some kind of tether for the canopy when it's open, so I went ahead and finished that now. What I did here is I just did a 1/16 inch braided cable. It was cable that I had left over from doing the steering, for the rudder pedals. And I had a couple of the swages left to attach on the end here. These bolts that I put through here, I went to the hardware store, and these are actually aluminum thumb screws. I put a, if I can see here, I put a washer on the back side of there, a nut on the back side of there, and then ran it through and put a nut on the back side of there, and I ended up just drilling out one of the holes here for this canopy support in the back. And then on the canopy itself here, you can see here I drilled a hole through there and put a lock nut on the back side of, again, a thumb screw attached. Let's see if you can see it there, up underneath there. But anyway, this seems to work really well. It opens up nicely. It's almost exactly vertical. With the airplane like this when it's open. A couple of the reasons I did it from this attach point is that the distance from here to keep this level and the distance down to here when it's closed keeps this cable pretty much, you know, for the most part tight. It's a little bit loose, but it's not at least hanging down, and there's no, you know, big loose string hanging back here or piece of cabling back here. So I was trying to get it as close as I could to you know, being almost tight without interfering with closing the canopy. So this worked really well. I did aluminum screws here because, again, there's not a lot of pressure on this, and obviously if something were to happen in flight and this canopy were to come open, I definitely don't want this cable holding this canopy on. It needs to just, you know, disappear, and hopefully these hinges break and it just disappears. I don't want to have a cable here and a, you know, a really strong screw and bolt in here trying to hold that canopy on as it's flapping around back here hitting the tail. So again, aluminum screws, they should just shear off if this canopy is ever opened by accident in flight. You don't need anything as strong as this cable, but I couldn't find anything else that wasn't, you know, essentially using string, and I didn't want to use string for this. So this seems to work really well. I can close the canopy here, and this seems to be a good spot right here is on this other corner. And then when I close it all the way, it sits like that, and it doesn't interfere with me when I'm in it. My shoulders are up here. If I lean back, I can feel it, I can touch it, but it's not in my way at all, so it works out pretty well. I think that's going to work out pretty good. Let's see if you can see down in there. You can see the screw a little bit better. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I still have to trim the canopy because I haven't made the 3mm gap that's supposed to be all the way around. I also want to clean out some of this, the PRC that's in here. It looks really ugly, so I've got a lot of PRC left, and I still have some of the bags and a few of the just, you know, smaller round tips. So I think what I'm going to do is work on, you know, actually putting PRC back in here along this edge, and then using a popsicle stick or something to get a nice radius on the outside, and then I might go back and tape and do a radius on the inside, just so I get a nice, at least even amount of PRC around here to look a little bit better on the inside and outside. It doesn't really look too bad on the inside. I don't know if you can see through the canopy there. You can kind of see the bead there, but it's not uniform and it's not consistent. And like I said, this is all going to be covered up on the outside anyway with paint, but I'm going to try and clean it up a little bit more. And like I said, getting a little bit more PRC on there, I think, to make sure that this canopy is stuck as well as it can be to the tubing is going to be good also. What I am going to show you though is I've sat in this airplane a bunch of times now. Again, I'm always surprised at how comfortable it is. But I do want to show you at least how I fit in there. Now, I'm about 15 pounds overweight right now. I definitely want to lose some weight before I get in this airplane. I want to be below 175. I'm actually about 185, 186 right now, which I don't like being that heavy. But I will sit in this, and at least maybe you can see how I get in and out of it, and how I fit in it, and how the canopy closes, and hopefully you'll be able to see, you know, where my head is in position to the airplane. But okay, you may or may not be able to hear me very well, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my headphones on too, so that you can actually see how that fits inside of here, hopefully. But let me go ahead and see if I can get in. I'm going to take my shoes off. And you can see I fit in here just fine. My shoulders aren't hitting anything, my back's not hitting anything, and I'm going to go ahead and close the canopy. But you will, I don't know if you'll be able to see in the video, but my shoulders do touch the canopy, just barely, just a little bit. I can lean forward and they don't, but if I sit just normally, my shoulders do touch the canopy. So Okay, so hopefully that gives you some idea at least how well I fit in here for comparison. I am going to grab the camera though, and I'm going to bring it in the airplane so that you can at least see what it looks like in here with the canopy closed. Now once I'm in here, the controls fit perfectly, my feet fit perfectly with the rudder pedals. I have access to everything that's on the instrument panel quite easily. And I would say the only thing that's a little bit restricting is if I try and move the flap lever, it's kind of hard to get my elbow back here to get to this flap lever. It's almost easier to reach across and use it with your other hand. I'm sorry, that's the trim lever. The flap lever is kind of the same way. Again, you've got to kind of reach back and kind of figure out how to move it. It's almost easier to take your right hand and just reach down and move that back and forth. So you kind of want to almost do cross cockpit grabbing of handles rather than trying to use the same arm with the same elbow on the same side, because that does get a little bit tight. But everything on the instrument panel is just within perfect reach. You know, all the touch screens up here is perfect. So let me grab the camera, bring it in the airplane, and we'll close the canopy again and see if you can see what that looks like. Okay, got the GoPro back in my hand now. Let's see if I can get back in here and still hold on to it. So you basically get in this airplane by standing on the seat. And then you can stand up on this part of the seat. It's fairly strong. But then it really takes two hands, one on each side here, to be able to lower yourself in and get your legs in the front. So I am probably going to have to set the camera down for a second while I do that. So we'll try it here. Alright, I'm going to have to set the camera down. Okay, back in the airplane. Now, like I said, this is quite comfortable. I have my arm is fairly stretched out actually to touch things on the screen here. That works fine. Throttle controls here. I don't have the knobs on at this point, but yeah, this works pretty good. Let's close the canopy. Get to be a little bit of an echo in here when you do that, but I'm going to go ahead and latch it in the front. Seems like you want to latch it in the front so that it aligns this front part here, which is curved, and then pull it down in the back with the back latch. But yeah, this is what it looks like inside. Like I said, I can just barely turn my head or tip my head side to side, and my headphones hit the canopy. But yeah, it's quite comfortable. I could sit in here for a long time. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pop the canopy and get back out. So the lever's down here. Oops. So this is the latch. And the way you unlatch this is you just use a finger and a thumb, pop it down, and then this comes down. Now, these move very easily for adjustment, but what I'm going to have to do is put some Loctite on these so that they stay where I adjust them to, because there isn't any kind of a screw or anything I can tighten to tighten these up so they don't just spin automatically by themselves. But then I just lift here, lift the canopy open, and that seems to work just great. So glad to have gotten this far with the canopy. It's quite a hurdle to have the canopy done, have that stress gone of worrying about damaging it, worrying about it getting installed properly and it fitting right. But the canopy, I mean, as far as this being built to the plans, this is really the plans canopy as far as height goes. And like I said, I wouldn't want to be any taller than me sitting in this airplane. Now, there's a possibility if I lose 10-15 pounds that maybe it'll give me a little bit more room. It's not going to make that much of a difference though. But anyway, this seems like it's going to work. I have full travel on all the controls. They seem to work great. The handbrake is in a good spot. And yeah, not really sure what else to show you. I can't wait till I can actually power up the instrument panel, which I haven't done yet. And hopefully I'll be doing that after I get the wings started, which is what's going to happen next. Now, one of the things I haven't done yet also, and I'll show you while I'm sitting in here, is there's supposed to be some foam that is put basically along the contour where these aluminum brackets are that are supposed to support the canopy when it comes down. So what you're supposed to do is fill between these brackets and here with foam and then just round it off. So you see some videos of airplanes or Cri Cris on the internet where they have like what appears to be almost like a tube-like thing that goes around the inside of here and is smoothed off. And I believe they're doing the foam, rounding it off, and then I think some people might even be putting some fiberglass on that just to make it, you know, kind of a complete finished cowling and not see all these little aluminum tabs sticking out. It's not necessary to do that. It's just kind of a way to finish it off and make it look a little bit nicer. It also does give you another surface that can be complete, that you can put foam not only on here, but you could put foam on top of here, you know, to provide some additional cushion or some additional insulation. I am a little bit worried about this airplane with the exhaust of those turboprops. I don't want to have any way that the exhaust from those turboprops is seeping in around this canopy and getting in the cockpit, which could be obviously very dangerous. So I'm not exactly sure until I actually taxi test this to see how well it works, and you know, if I have any way of getting additional ventilation in here. And I'm going to have to be really careful that I don't get too much exhaust inside the airplane as I'm taxiing and or flying. So all right, I'm gonna hop back out and I'm gonna see if I can get some more PRC on this canopy frame, see if I can finish this nicely, get it looking a little bit better, and then we'll start trimming it to its final final dimensions that it needs to be, with the gap in between here, so that we can put some insulation or some foam sealant in there. So let me get to work on that. So I haven't recorded much of what I'm working on right now, partly because I really don't know what I'm doing and this isn't really part of the plans, but I thought I'd show it to you before I started assembling this. So I was a little bit concerned about not being able to latch this canopy in any way from the outside. The plans don't have anything in them to indicate how you should close the canopy and keep it closed. Even when you're trailering it, this canopy is going to shake around. If you have it at the airport, you obviously don't want it to blow open, or you don't want people getting, let's say, into your airplane. How do I keep it closed? And obviously I can't get inside to actuate the latches. So I came up with an idea, and I've been messing with it for a while, and I'm gonna try and start assembling some of this. But what I've decided to do is actually add a third, basically a latch assembly that can be actuated from the outside here in the center of frame 5. And so what I did is I started off by just drilling a hole in the fuselage here, and I inserted from the other side a cut down piece of 3/8 tubing that is 1/4 inch on the inside, 3/8 on the outside, and then I did 5/16 hole that goes through the skin here, and then I put a little lip on it so that I could push it through the skin. It would sit flush. And then on the inside here, that's what it looks like. This is the tube, and then there's also an inserted tube inside of there that reduces the inside diameter here down to a number 10 bolt size. So my plan is that I took an Allen head bolt like so. This is a 2-inch one. I needed to get at least a 1-inch shank, which is what I wanted to be able to have it inside this tube here and not have the threads rub too much. I cut down the head to a 1/4 inch so that it would fit inside there, and then I went and got a spring at Ace Hardware. And my plan is that if I stick this, hold on, let me stick this back on here. If I put the spring on top of here, like so, I can insert the screw inside of here, and you can see it's spring loaded because, again, I put this reducer insert inside of here, so the spring is actually catching on the back side of that little, it's about a 1/4 inch deep reducer in there. So I can push this all the way in and make it flush. And then what I can do is, if I have an Allen key, which I'd obviously have to keep on a keychain or something if I go to the airport and I want to actually lock the canopy. But the idea is that I can push this in with an Allen key. So normally it's going to sit flush, but if I want to latch the canopy, I can push it in with an Allen key, and then it's going to extend on the outside here a little cam, and then if I rotate it, it should lock basically this little cam into a bracket that I'm going to have on the actual canopy itself that comes down over the top of this, and you stick this on the end of the screw and screw it on there, and then when this is rotated, it will pull the canopy down and kind of hold it in place. No idea exactly how this is going to work, and this has been kind of complicated to figure out because I can't test any of it. I could have tested this had I not glued the canopy on already, but the canopy is glued on, so I can't get inside of it to test any of this and adjust it unless I crawl inside the airplane, which I have done. But again, I can't attach, my concern here is I can't attach this to here without permanently pop riveting it on. And then once it's pop riveted on, I can't take it back off if I need to adjust anything or fix anything, or even attach here basically a tab that comes down that connects with this. But anyway, so here's what I came up with. This is actually going to be like the strike plate that I'm going to attach right here. Put it right side up maybe, like so. And I drilled out the top 2 rivet holes on the cockpit border here, and I drilled out this one on frame 5, and then again the bolt that's coming through, that's going to actuate my latch mechanism, is coming right through the center. And so this is going to be, this is going to be mounted right like that, and I can pop rivet it in. Oh, I'm sorry, it's upside down, it goes this way. 2 rivets on the top, 1 on the bottom, and then this cam gear mechanism thing will actually be recessed inside of here, because this latch only works if you're closing the canopy from the outside. If you're actually inside the airplane and going to fly it, I need whatever latch comes down on the canopy frame itself to just slide over the top of here and not catch on anything, because again, it's not going to latch that way. So I'm at the point now where I'm ready to pop rivet this on here because I can't do anything else with this. This looks good. I think this is going to work great for basically for the inside airplane part, or at least where the catch mechanism is going to go. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pop rivet that in, and then I'm going to stick this bolt through, and I'm going to figure out exactly where I need to drill a hole through this to secure it to the screw. I'm going to put some kind of roll pin or something in there to just hold it in place, because otherwise I don't have space to put a nut on there, and I can't have a nut on the end of it. But anyway, I'm going to work on this. I'm trying to get this done. I do have kind of a makeshift latch mechanism that I tested that I can wrap around the canopy. So this will basically go like this. As the canopy comes down, it's going to come down over in front of this, and then that little cam's going to come through here and catch it. I did measure and fit this from inside the canopy earlier, but this obviously needs to be cut down quite a bit. I just was playing with something to test with. But so what I'm working on, I wanted to show it to you before I assembled some of these parts so you can see what it looked like. And hopefully it works in the end. I have no idea if this is going to work, or how many times I'm going to have to redo this, or possibly make a new one of these, because if the alignment isn't perfect, I can't be off, an eighth of an inch, or it's not going to work. So let me get this part installed, and then we'll see if we can get something attached to the canopy itself, and see if we can actually see if this is going to work. So this is what it looks like pop riveted on, and you can see I do have the cam attached to the bolt that'll obviously be cut off. But you can see then from the outside here, I've got an Allen key that I can just stick in here. I can push this in, and you can see the cam comes out, and then I can rotate that cam around to latch the canopy with whatever latch assembly that I can make here that comes down from the canopy. Now, I tried to make this angled because there's going to have to be a catch that comes down, and it's going to have to catch on this and kind of slide its way down before the canopy gets all the way closed. And I think it's going to have a an end on it that's bent like this so that it catches it and then pushes it down flat. But that should now be able to clear this with the bolt cut off when I'm not using it and not latching it, so it can just slide past it without even interfering with it at all. And then when I want to latch it, I can just push that Allen head bolt in and rotate that cam, and that was my idea, and hopefully it's going to work. But let me see if I can keep working on the other half of this, which has to be attached to the side of the canopy here. This is the bracket fully installed, and I do have the little cam on the bolt permanently attached. I just put a 16th inch roll pin through this aluminum cam into the stainless bolt that I use there, and then I cut the bolt off on with a die grinder. But let me grab the tool and I'll show you how this works. Okay, so on the outside you can see I've got an Allen head key flush, and I can stick this in here and I can push it in and out. Pushing it in extends the cam on the back side of here, which you can see rotates, and it recesses back into, whoops, dropped my tool, recesses back into there. And so what I can do is push it out, and then I just turn it until it goes 90 degrees, and it will latch onto the latch. Now what I did do is I went ahead and drilled some holes here and put a couple clecos in the bracket that I had made, and then the piece that goes on the back side of here that I cut out that the cam goes into, I just vice gripped it to the bracket just to check the fit, make sure that the cam would actually go through this hole, and then once it went through the hole, when it turned, if it pushed the canopy down into the right position, and it seems to work great. So if I close this, in fact, let me set the tool down here. All right, set the tool down. We'll see if we can get this closed. And push that down. And you can see that down in there. Now what I can do is take my tool on the outside here, and hopefully I can't do it with one hand because I got to push down on the canopy at the same time. There we go, I got it. So now the canopy is solidly locked down, and you know, it's not as tight a fit as I would get if I had these the actual canopy latches, but it's plenty good. I mean, it's definitely going to be at least weather tight, and it's not going to now move around. I can't lift it up when it is traveling. So I think this is going to work well. I'm going to have to do a little bit of adjustments here. I've got to go ahead and pop rivet that bracket in. I have to cut down that retainer for the cam in there and clean this up a little bit, and I have to figure out how to permanently attach that to the bracket. I think I'm going to put it on with countersunk screws from the backside. That way it could be taken off and adjusted and moved, and, you know, possibly even replaced if I needed to, in case this isn't fitting the way I want it to. But the fit's tight, which is what I wanted. I was hoping it wasn't going to be too loose, because the more you pull it down, the more it gets flush with the outside of the forward and rear canopy hoops. So anyway, this is looking really good. I'm going to keep going. I'll show you what it looks like when I get it finished here. Well, the only thing I have left to do on my canopy latch that I can release from the outside is to drill out the 2 clecoed holes here to 1/8 inch and put a couple pop rivets in it. It works as good as I had hoped. It's easy to latch, it's easy to unlatch, the hole lines up perfectly, and it pulls the canopy down fairly tight. It doesn't pull it down as hard as it does on the corners here with the internal latches, but it's still going to seal just fine. The only thing is it's a little bit bulky. I kind of wish it was, I mean, you can see here through the canopy what that looks like, that center thing. It kind of looks like a counterweight on the end of the canopy there, and of course there's a hole inside of there that's a 1/2 inch in diameter for that cam to go into. So it works good. I kind of wish it was smaller, a little less bulky, and maybe revision 2 that I come up with at some point will work a little bit better. But I'm going to see if I can get this off. The only thing I've noticed is that I do have to put a little bit of weight, like my hand on top of the canopy, to push it down so that the hole lines up, because obviously that cam doesn't move a whole lot. But you can see the screw down in there, and I can just put the Allen key in there, and I can turn it either direction because it doesn't actually have a stop. And that's another thing that I would probably like to change in the future, is to have it so that when it's released, it goes into a detent that it fits into, and then when it goes in there, you could turn it and have it go to a stop so you know exactly where it's at. But it's not difficult to tell exactly where it's pulling down the hardest. But as you can see, I'll release this here, pop, and you can see the screw popped back out, and now the canopy is completely released. And you can see the little cam screw in there. So I installed the final pop rivets here on this exterior latch for the canopy. I'm just going to show you one more time how this works. Again, like I said in the last video, this couldn't work any better. I'm so pleased with it. Stick this in here, just rotate it 1/2 turn. You'll feel it pop, and the screw comes out. The canopy is released. And flip it up. like so. Now the one thing is this makes a nice grab handle. I can now just grab onto this to close the canopy from the outside, or from the inside you can pretty much grab the tubing, but it works nice to be able to open and close the canopy just grabbing onto this instead of trying to grab onto the tube or touch the inside of the canopy screen there. So again, a nice feature. I did do some rounding and polishing on this, so if I close it here, I'll show you on the inside what it looks like here. Yeah, if you can see it over there, I rounded the left and right side of it and cut it down a little bit more, but at least I won't catch my arm or my elbows on it. But anyway, it's great, it works, and that's all I can say. This took me quite a while to do this because, again, this wasn't in the plans. I kind of had to go off my own design in my own head. But now that I've got the canopy so that it latches down, I feel comfortable now going back and marking my 2 millimeters or 3 millimeters all the way around and trimming the edges of the canopy for the final fit. And that's really the last thing I have to do besides coming back and actually painting over where this tape is covering right now, just to make it so you don't see the PRC or the the tubing that's in there. But yeah, let me go ahead and get out a marker and see if I can mark around the canopy. I'm going to start trimming that right now. So I've started to sand the front edge of the canopy here to try and create the gap that is supposed to be between the front canopy cowling and the canopy itself. Now the plans are saying that that gap should be 3 millimeters. Now 3 millimeters is quite large. That's slightly under 1/8 of an inch. And I guess I'm a little bit confused as to why that gap should be that big, or if that gap just can be that big, and maybe we shouldn't go that big if we don't have to. So I've got a very consistent 1.5 millimeter gap. I can run a 1.5 millimeter ruler all the way across the front, and the gap is good. I'm not sure that I want to make the gap any bigger. Now, I don't know if the airplane flexes at all and there's a concern that it's going to rub. I don't really know. Charlie came to visit. Say hi, Charlie. But anyway, I'm trying to figure out if I really need to sand anymore. And I don't know if anybody who's watching this video can comment on it one way or another if they know, but as long as the airplane isn't twisting in the air and causing it to rub and possibly break because it's getting pressure on the corners, I don't see why I should make that gap any bigger. Now I haven't adjusted the back here at all, so I am going to start working on this and try and get this about the same. I do have a little bit more. There's a little bit more gap underneath here, and there's more gap on the other side. I may just take this up a little bit on the center because it is close on the center, but it's further away because of the curve. But anyway, I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to go any more than this. Like I said, I think I'm just going to stick to this 1.5 millimeters for now. We are supposed to round the front edge of this. Mine sticks up just a tiny bit. I mean, it's, I don't know, 15 thousandths of an inch. I can feel that it sticks up. Some places, like right here, it's a little bit more. But I do have that in a few spots. I kind of decided to go a little bit higher and have it sticking out than having it low. I figured that since this has to be painted or taped or something along the edge here to cover, I can actually sand down the edge of this canopy and slope it in that last 3/4 of an inch to get it to be perfectly flush. But obviously I can't add anything to it if it were to be under. Up here it's perfectly flush. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start sanding the back now since I have the front even. I'm going to try and do the back the same, and then I think I'm just for now going to leave it like that because, again, like I said, I don't really want to go any wider than I have to. And if I don't have to go any wider to make it fit perfectly, then I think I'm going to go to that 1.5 millimeters. But anyway, I'm going to start working on the back now, and I'll sand that, and I'll show you what it looks like in a few minutes. So just to comment how I'm actually sanding this, I've kept this connected to the airplane. I'm just flipping it open and then keeping track of exactly where I need to sand a little bit more. In a few cases, I've put a few marks where I see it's a little bit less than it is in its surrounding area. That's how I kind of work to this 1.5 or 1.5 millimeters that I have now. I am just using a combination of 120 grit sandpaper on a sanding block and a DeWalt palm sander. So let's see. So I've got them down here on the floor. This is what I'm using. Just 120 grit sandpaper, and then I've got a DeWalt sander, and I think this is probably, well, I don't know. That might even be 80 grit. I'm not really sure. I'd have to peel it off to see. But it seems a little bit more coarse. Yeah, it's definitely more coarse than that. It could be a 80 or 100. But again, I'm not sanding a whole lot. I'm just trying to smooth it out and make the gap even. And that's basically what I've ended up with, here. All right, so let me go ahead and sand the back. Shouldn't take me very long. So I finished sanding the gap all the way around, and I had a pretty even, I don't know, it's probably a 2 millimeter gap here and on the front here. It looks really good. I don't see any reason to make that any bigger, so I'm going to leave it. You can also see I did cover up the PRC on the outside with some 3/4 inch pinstriping tape, and that turned out pretty good. I mean, you can still see, if you look at it, you can see over just a little bit and see some of the PRC on the inside, on the top. And then what I did is, let me grab the canopy locked down. Push down on top of the canopy and that pops out. But I did go around here and just filled in with PRC to the edge of the canopy frame all the way around the outside, so you can see I did it here also. But I didn't bother to go back in and do anything on the up on the inside of the tube that's on the plexiglass side. I just decided it just wasn't worth it. Yeah, it doesn't look great, but it's covered up with the tape on the outside, and if I decided to remove the vinyl tape there, I could always sand it down and paint it, and it's not a big deal. It's not going to make a bit of difference, and again, it doesn't look all that bad, so I'm not too concerned about it. So for right now, the canopy is basically done. Everything is working fine. The only thing I do have to do at some point is get some weather stripping in here, and of course the weather stripping is supposed to go, basically around the perimeter of the canopy, here and across the bottom here and up around the top here. So I'll figure out what I'm going to do at some point to do that, and then I'll decide if I'm going to come back and finish, installing some kind of foam and some kind of finishing hoop that goes around here that's supposed to kind of make this look nicer and hide these supports here. And again, I don't think I'm probably even going to bother doing that before the airplane flies, as long as I can get a good seal around the canopy here when it closes. I'm just going to leave it like that until after, and then if we want to make it prettier after it flies, I'll go ahead and do that. But so anyway, that's the canopy. It fits perfect and it's done. And again, thanks for watching, and if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel and please like the video. See you on the next one.